This here is the Realme 9 Pro Plus. It's their new mid-range phone from them, powered by the MediaTek Dimensity 920. Now I'm glad to see they didn't go with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 695 or 680 with this phone and offered us a more potent chipset. So that one from MediaTek, it's a lot better in terms of performance, especially for games over the 600 series with the Snapdragons. Now with this phone, we get a 50 megapixel camera as the main camera, but it has optical image stabilization, something that you don't normally see at this price point and category of phone. It's got 60-watt charging, a 4,500 milliamp hour battery. This screen with an in-screen fingerprint reader is 90 Hz, AMOLED, Full HD Plus resolution. And in my time using and testing out this phone, I do think this is one of the best mid-range phones so far for 2022, and you'll see why in this in-depth review. Along with the phone, you will find our super dart charger. So that is 60 watts, and it will take approximately 40 minutes to fully charge the phone. Our Type A to Type C USB cable in white and of a good length. And we do have a SIM tray tool and a warranty card information and a TPU case here. Now this TPU case, coming from a manufacturer, does fit it perfectly. Smoky grey color, and there's even a bit of protection here around where the cameras are, and it covers the buttons there too, either side. So the phone is a very comfortable weight. It's only about 184 grams, and the thickness of it is just 8 millimeters, which is excellent. Now the build of it, when you shine it in the light, you can see a bit of a sparkling effect coming through with the back with this green color, which I think looks great. I do like the fact that we don't have that big, huge Dare to Leap slogan on the back now. It looks a little bit more simple, and just the 3 camera modules here. So the main camera is that IMX766 from Sony with optical image stability. You can see it's listed right there, 50 megapixels. And it does also shoot 4K video. Right here is a macro camera, so that macro camera is just 2 megapixels with a 4 centimeter focal point on it, and then an ultra wide, which is 8 megapixels. Pretty standard there, but still great to see such a decent, basically flagship grade camera in a phone at this price point. On the right side of the phone, we've got our power button. Now, it's very easy to get to. It's right where your thumb is if you're holding it with your right hand. So that's good location. And along the sides here, you don't see any antenna lines at all because it is a plastic frame. So 8 millimeters here, but the cameras, they do stick out quite a bit more, as you can see. Now, the frame is solid. It doesn't creak. It doesn't flex in hand. Then here on the left-hand side, we can see we've got 2 separate volume up and down buttons, and then our SIM tray. So the SIM tray just takes 2 nano SIMs, no micro SD card support with it, unfortunately. Down the bottom, our microphone, 3.5 millimeter out. Great to see this here with mic support and good quality. I have no real complaints about it. It sounds good to my ears. The loudspeaker here, downward firing, and in the earpiece right here we have the second. So it does actually have 2 loudspeakers, which is great. Up the top we simply just have a secondary microphone. So they've done away with an IR transmitter. And the hole punch cutout front-facing camera, this one's 16 megapixels. Do you like it, the cutout on the left, or do you prefer it in the middle? I think my favorite position is actually right there in the middle, but let me know in the comments which one you prefer. The display here that Realme's gone with is a 90 Hz panel, and it's got an in-screen fingerprint reader with this 6.43-inch screen. So Full HD Plus resolution. It does look very good, and it's AMOLED, of course, and 90 Hz. So it's fast, it's smooth, it's fluid. So this fingerprint reader, very good. I have not had any problems with it. It is more accurate and working a lot better than even the Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra I currently have and I'm testing. This is a lot better. I'm just finding it to be so much better, which surprises me considering this is not a flagship device. So under settings here, you can go into this and take a look at what we have for our options. You've got plenty of things to tweak and choose from which I really like to see here. So eye comfort mode, dark mode, that's all standard. Video enhancement mode, I don't really mess around with that. I don't actually personally like that. But we've got the refresh mode selection here too, which is good. So high is 90 Hz. Auto select will range from 30 to 60 to 90. It swaps between it, so it's adaptive in order to save on battery life. And standard, you can force it to 60 if you need, of course, that extra battery life. Or you don't care about 90 Hz. But for me, I'm paying for a phone that's got 90 Hz screen. I'm going to use it at 90 Hz, definitely there. And you've got your color modes, okay? So Vivid, Natural, and Pro. The screen brightness tops out at close to 1000 nits, which is excellent. So it can be made out in direct sunlight, not a problem there, which is great. The other definite bonus with this screen is I don't see any banding, flicker, or anything. It seems to be running a form of DC dimming. It's not using, I don't know if it's using pulse width modulation, or I'm not seeing it at any brightness really, the flickers, which is good. Because even turning this down onto a low brightness, where's the banding? There is no banding that I've seen and even see on premium AMOLED screens that just don't have the DC dimming. So it looks like they've got it there, they've enabled it, and it is truly a stunning, great screen that I don't think anyone's going to have any problems here. Just quickly go into this real world test. Take another look at it here. Images look very, very good. Just up that brightness a little bit. Punchy screen with great contrast and super deep blacks. UI performance now. So we've got Android 12 with Realme UI 3.0 is the skin. And I really do like it. I think it's better than MIUI now. MIUI 13 has been quite laggy with Android 12 and problems with some of the Google apps, whereas here, it's so much smoother. Just look at the scrolling. Really, really good. Now, I do have it set to a performance mode, but even with that performance mode off, I'll show you where to do that actually. Just go in through the settings. It's a bit hidden away. Battery. And you want to go into advanced settings here, performance mode. So you can change that. Normally it's on smart, it's an adaptive performance, just using a balanced governor there for the CPU. But when you put it on to high performance, it's a high performance governor. So it's forcing a higher clock rate the whole time. So really good. Gesture detection, not a problem either. Swapping between all my different apps I found to be quite quick. Now it does end up reloading things. The task manager will kill things off in the background and you notice it reloads quickly. If it's not a system app, it happens even quicker there. So no problems there really with it. I think it's great, the performance, how fluid everything is, and no real issues. It's certainly so much better, this chipset, the Dimensity 920 versus the Qualcomm Snapdragon 680 or 695, just nowhere near as good as this. So bloatware is something I point out, that manufacturers, they force these apps upon you when you first get it. But Realme's toned down on this quite a bit. You can see what I would classify as bloatware when you first get it would be just a few of these apps around here. So Booking.com, Facebook, PUBG Thing, LinkedIn, Amazon, bit of bloat. Nothing like the competitors' phones, like Xiaomi, when they put like 20 apps on, about 2 gigabytes worth. So good to see that they're toning down on that a little bit. I'm on the Realme UI 3.0 latest update here, so that came through. It was a big update, and it fixed a few little bugs. The camera was crashing, although it still has crashed 1 or 2 more times on me when I swapped from photo to video mode. So there are a few little bug fixes needed from Realme there. So free storage, you're looking at about 107 gigabytes on first boot. Remember, no micro SD card support. And we're looking at UFS, I believe, I don't have the spec sheet, but I believe it's UFS 2.2. And the speeds here, very, very good. Considering the price and category grouping of this phone, that's excellent. With that Dimensity 920. Look at this performance. This just absolutely kills the Snapdragon 680 or 695. I'm so glad Realme did not go with one of those chipsets in this phone. This is much better here, having this MediaTek chip. Geekbench 5 scores, pretty good for this type of chipset. Really good there, actually. Now, battery life. This here, I had it set to the adaptive refresh rate, okay? So a lot of the times it was just running at 60 hertz. You're looking at, realistically, if you use that mode, around about 9 hours of on-screen time. 8.5 to 9 hours, depending on your use, which is light use here. If you game, it's only going to go for about 4 or 5 hours of just straight out gaming. Again, depends on your brightness too. Now, if you use just 90 hertz and force it to 90 hertz, you're going to see around 7 to 8 hours of on-screen time. Again, depends on what you're doing, of course. Mileage will vary there. So it does have a Widevine level 1 cert, which is good to see. So Netflix, yes, is in full HD, but Amazon Prime Video isn't. It's still standard definition because it's not being whitelisted by Amazon, which is another step that I hope they will eventually whitelist these devices. So GPS works really quite well. You get an accuracy better than Qualcomm's chipset of 1 meter here. That's as good as it gets with accuracy, and the average signal strength is very good. So nothing like the old GPS of the old MediaTek, which used to be terrible. No, the GPS now is pretty good. Quite good, in fact. So we do have camera API level 3 here for API Camera 2 API. So that's great. So if you need to try out Gcam ports or whatever, you can do with this. So the battery capacity, 4,500 milliamp hours. It takes from 3% to 70 to do that only in 23 minutes and approximately 40 minutes to fully charge. The trouble is, it always cuts out for a split second. Audio quality now. So I have placed some voice calls on it. Sometimes I forget to actually mention that, and I do apologize. They're phones after all, and yeah, you can place calls, no issues, no cutouts, no drops, nothing like that, and no weird microphone quality. It sounds good. It does have noise cancellation. There's that secondary mic in the top. So down the bottom, a 3.5mm headphone jack, delivering good quality. It sounds clean. The loudness isn't the loudest I've heard. It could be a bit louder, but overall, I think it's good and great to have, of course. So there is a loudspeaker in the earpiece and then the one down the bottom. What does it sound like? So just jump into YouTube. And while I'm doing that, let you know as well, another thing is the haptics on this is quite good. I do like what I'm feeling from the haptics motor in this particular model. So go into one of my videos and I'll give you a sample of the speakers at 100% volume. Gaming performance, PUBG right here. Now, what settings can we use with this? Well, there's some good news here that under our graphics options, you get the extreme frame rate, but the only way to get the extreme frame rate is using the smooth graphics preset. If you use balance or anything higher, it knocks it down to Ultra HD and HDR. You still get the ultra frame rate, but no, I want the extreme there, which I already have set up. Now, with the game settings here, you can actually swipe from the top. If you've got this enabled, you bring up the new widget here, which is good. And you've got different tweaks here. So you've got the game focus mode. So it's basically like enabling do not disturb modes. You've got your touch sensitivity improvement. And here, the one I like is this, is the system status. So you can bring this up. It displays then the frame rate. So you can see currently just in the menu here, 30 frames per second. But I will jump into some gameplay now. And this performance is great. It's a constant 60 frames per second. Well, it does show there 59, but the whole time. Now, it doesn't support 90 frames per second, which is unfortunate. But with this graphics extreme frame rate option and balanced, I'm happy with this performance. And I think most people will probably go for this instead of using the better graphics. Visually looking better, but you lose that frame rate, of course, because it's going to knock it down then to the lower setting, which will be capped then at 45 frames per second, which you don't want. So looking down the sights here, no problems. There is no lag. I have not seen it lag yet at all. It's just constantly 60 frames per second with that gaming performance mode on. Now, it is getting a little warm around the camera module. So what I'll do is I'll game for 40 minutes to 1 hour, and I'll report back with my thermal imaging camera. We'll see just how hot is it going to get gaming constantly on the Realme 9 Pro Plus. Now, the back of it's getting up to about 37 degrees Celsius. Now, if I did have a case on it, which I think most people probably would gaming, then do expect probably about 3 degrees or so more there, reaching around 40. Now, it's got a vapor chamber in it, and it does seem to be doing the job. Here on the front, it looks like it could be almost a little hotter. No, about the same, around 37 degrees Celsius. So that's after approximately 38 minutes of gaming. It doesn't seem to be getting any hotter. It seems to be at the moment plateauing around that 37 max there. Over to the cameras now. So our front-facing vlog footage here with a 16 megapixel front-facing sensor, 1080p maximum with electronic image stabilization. Now I have noticed that it can sometimes overexpose a little bit. And when I walk ahead, you see that the electronic image stabilization does have a bit, I have noticed, of a jello effect happening with it. So a little bit of optimization and some firmware updates needed with the cameras, I feel here. So audio quality, it's 256 normally kilobits per second, which is not a bad bit rate. I'll swap over now to the rear cameras, video, and then later stills. Rear main camera, so this is that 50 megapixel Sony IMX766. It has the stabilization, which is optical. But you see now as I walk ahead that it is shaking around all over the place. That is because it's just 4K without any electronic image stabilization. Now I do hope that Realme can add this later on. At least it does have 4K because the competing phones like the Redmi Note 11 Pro, that does not have 4K 1080p only. Ultra wide camera, so it is the weaker cameras with this Realme 9 Pro Plus here. So we do have electronic image stabilization, which does work really well, but there's not a lot of detail captured, as you can see, especially around the edges with this lens and the camera. Now I'm just going to step it up to a jog. You can see how that electronic image stabilization is working there, but it does at least do a good job. Now panning around here, we shouldn't really see any judders coming through, not at 1080p, which is the max you can record with the ultra wide camera. And there we go. So I think camera-wise, there's a little bit of optimization that is certainly needed, especially with the front vlog footage and some of the sharpness and the white balance with those photos. But really, this is an absolute solid release from Realme. I do believe that Xiaomi and, well, Redmi are going to be in a bit of trouble if they keep this up, because this mid-range phone here certainly, in my eyes, destroys the likes of the Redmi Note 11 Pro with its Snapdragon 695. Now, the Dimensity 920, if you're a gamer, it's the one to go for. And just general ROM performance too. The ROM is a lot smoother. Google apps like scrolling in Twitter, in Chrome, and even Play Store, super smooth on this, where it's a bit janky and laggy and stuttery with the Xiaomi MIUI ROMs. I think that Realme UI is certainly now a better UI. I'm liking it more than I like MIUI 13. That's definitely for sure. So far, what I've seen with Android 12 phones, a lot of them are a little bit buggy so far. It doesn't mean this Realme 9 Pro Plus is perfect in the ROM department. The camera app has crashed on me a couple of times, swapping between photos and video, and there's a couple of other little things in there too as well. So there's some bugs to iron out, but apart from that, I mean, the performance, the fluidity, how smooth it is, fingerprint reader is working super well there. You just simply need to just tap that and it unlocks, and it's working for me every time. Build quality, good, very solid. I like how thin it is. It's a good weight too, just over 180 grams. And there's no creaks, nothing feels cheap at all with this build. Even though it does have a plastic frame to it, it certainly doesn't detract from the quality and the build of this offering here from Realme. So I'm really impressed by this phone for a mid-range phone. I'm going to say so far in my time testing out mid-range phones now in 2022, this is the model to go for. They've certainly upped a lot of areas here, Realme, with that camera giving us optical image stabilization and just the general whole package we're getting out of this one. So thanks so much for watching my review here of the Realme 9 Pro Plus. I'll see you in the next one.